I'm not pushing one way or another. I'm not pushing open. I'm not pushing polyamory. I'm not pushing divorce. I'm not pushing staying together. What I really desire for the people who I help are for them to really get to a place where they really understand what they want. Not what their partner wants, but what they want. And sometimes, wanting to have sex with somebody else, there's a root of something else that's actually there.
Yes.
And so sometimes we just need to get down to the root and what the real desire is.
Today's guest is Gayle Lynn, a relationship coach focusing on what do you do when your partner wants to have sex with another person? Or maybe you want to have sex with someone else. Through Gayle's experience, she's learned how messy relationships can be when someone is expressing their sexual desires. She helps navigate family and cultural beliefs, communication pitfalls, processing emotions, and more. For some, this may be creating more intimacy in the marriage, opening the marriage, and for some, it may be a divorce. Whichever decision is made, she can guide you through it without judgment or an agenda. She is trained in the Chopra method of coaching and uses her acronym C.A.R.E method to facilitate her coaching style. Welcome, Gayle.
Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, so am I. What a topic to be talking about.
I know, right?
Yeah, especially there are so much taboos.
Well, there really is, depending on where you live, how you grew up, what kind of religious background or faith that you grew up in, it can be an intense topic.
Absolutely.
And, that's why, I chose to do what I'm doing, is because navigating through that kind of desire, and it's natural and normal. A lot of people have it, and a lot of people don't act on it. And some people act out of integrity. And so, for me, my message is there's no reason to act out of integrity. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. And we are Create the Courage to Be Fearless podcast. So therefore, what a fantastic subject to be talking about.
Right? You got to be fearless in your desires.
Yes. So what is one of the most courageous things that you've done?
That's a great question. Yeah, what have I done courageously? Wow. This whole journey has been a journey of courage for me. It all started when my husband came to me with and expressed his desire to have sex with somebody else. And we had been in the church for over 30 years, very fundamental. And we were actually in a space where we were starting to kind of question some of the things that we've believed all those years, which was a big step in itself. And then for him to, have the courage to come to me and express his desire was huge. And so for me, it sent me crying in the closet. Honestly, yeah. It broke me down. I went through my self-worth issues, like, oh, it's about me. What am I doing wrong? And really it was kind of a co-creative situation. We had a lot going on in our lives. And so, really I was kind of checked out in the intimacy world, and he was wanting more. And so I think it would be natural for somebody to kind of, have that. But at the same time, he wasn't dealing with his stress well either by wanting more. So it was a co-creation kind of that was going on.
And at least he came to you. He didn't just have an affair.
That's just it, because that's what people tend to default to, because they're so ashamed, so afraid to talk, so afraid to really speak their truth and be vulnerable. And really, vulnerability is how you build trust with somebody. And so by him coming to me in that vulnerable state, it actually allowed me to trust him more, because he didn't just go act on it. He actually talked to me about it. And that's what I would encourage. That's what I always encourage people. That's like my message. Let's talk about it. And so after that, after I kind of settled down and we started to talk through things, one of the things that we did was orgasmic meditation, which took a lot of courage on my part because, as a woman, we grow up, and we have all of these cute little skinny, tiny people. And this is, the magazine, and we're supposed to look like that. And, here I've had 3 kids that, stretched my stomach to, I'm this little short 5-foot thing. And, I felt like my stomach was as wide as I was tall, And so for me to go into, even practicing something like that, because, you're removing your clothes to do this practice, to do this meditation. And so it took a lot of courage for me to do that. I really had to step into a place like, oh my gosh, I got, my body, what are people going to think? And what, and even though it was a practice between the 2 of us, there were still other people that could be around us. And so it was still a huge step. We started, and that really helped. It helped in the intimacy area. It helped me. It helped me to blossom into knowing my sexuality so much more. And it was, an awesome meditative practice. It is truly, I would have visions and just some awesome experiences doing this practice. So it was pretty neat. But it took a lot of courage to go there.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Now, the second time that took even more courage is, we were doing really good. A year had gone by, and then he came to me again with the same desire. So it didn't really leave, And so I just, at that point, I'm like, let's just go talk about this. Let's sit down. We actually went and sat where I have my little sacred space and, do my meditation and stuff, and talked it out. And we chose to actually move forward with, what would this look like if we did this? What would it look like if we had sex with other people outside of our marriage? This is like crazy talk,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Let's see.
Because this is your reaction to your husband wanting to have sex with someone else. You're in a marriage, and I know it does happen, but for some, having a monogamy relationship is the way forward. So yeah, it's out of the,
Yeah. And it's what we're taught.
Yes.
If we look at history and you go way back, the days where the woman would have sex with a bunch of different men and they never knew who the father was. And so everybody raised the children. That's how it used to be. So, but we ended up having these different beliefs that came up through cultural and societal beliefs. And monogamy is the way. And that's the way it should be. One man, one wife forever, and we know that's not the case now. Look at the divorce rates and all of
Definitely.
that. And so we got a suggestion from somebody to go do some sacred sexuality classes. And that one took a lot of courage because now I know not only now I have to be fully nude to do these practices or these, experiences that we're going to be doing, but we did them with other people. You could choose to do them together as partners, but we actually chose to use this as an opportunity to create a container where we would have these experiences with other people. And that was probably the most beautiful moment in my life. It took the most courage that I ever had to muster up. But the person that I was partnered up with made me feel so beautiful inside and out. And that is the moment I really started accepting who I was.
Wow.
And this body that I was given, and saw it as beautiful, and really began to accept myself. It was pretty amazing. And so then at that point, after that week was done, Dave, which was my former partner, he and I decided to open our marriage.
Okay.
And so another courageous step, right? This is a whole courageous journey. Yeah. And so then it all began, and, you know, it was messy. And that's why I'm
Okay.
doing what I'm doing, because, you know, we navigated through it. And it would have been so helpful to have somebody in our court to really kind of guide us through it. I mean, we had a few friends and stuff like that, but if we would have had somebody really there in our corner, it probably would have saved us from my part-time job of communicating, because we'd get in these communication circles of how we're going to do this. What does this look like? Oh, we're scared. We're going to do it. We're going to, you know, moments on, moments off, you know.
And yeah, and like you say, because obviously being a relationship coach, it's usually we do the things we do due to not having someone there to support us, and there's obviously a need for it through our experiences. So I can totally understand that.
Yeah, you know, it's the whole Joseph Campbell's hero's journey.
Yes.
You know, you go out, you go through it, and you bring it back to the village, and you fight your dragons and hug your dragons, and you do all those things. It was really a lot of personal development work that we did.
I mean, this is on a whole nother level.
A whole nother level. Yeah. So, but, you know, I so grateful for it, because what has come out of it is it gives me that opportunity to really support other people in making their choices. And I'm not pushing one way or another. I'm not pushing open. I'm not pushing polyamory. I'm not pushing divorce. I'm not pushing staying together. What I really desire for the people who I help are for them to really get to a place where they really understand what they want, not what their partner wants, but what they want. And then when they can decide really what they do want, and sometimes, you know, wanting to have sex with somebody else, there's a root of something else that's actually there.
Yes.
And so sometimes we just need to get down to the root and what the real desire is. And if it is just to have, you know, the sexual exploration, then maybe opening the relationship is great. And having somebody there for you is definitely helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened after you opened your relationship then?
Oh boy. Well, for me, it was easy. I found somebody that I started seeing right away.
Okay.
Seems to be a little easier for women than men sometimes. I've discovered that.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
I don't know. So I did start seeing somebody, and then he had dated a few people, and it was rocky because, you know, you start having a lot of stuff come up, and jealousy is one of the things that typically is the one that's going to pop up right away. And so there was definitely, I tended to not have a problem with the jealousy as far as him having sex with somebody else. It's funny, I would get jealousy in different areas. And that there's actually a study out there that shows that's the case with women. With men, it's more like, that's my woman. What are you doing with my woman? You know?
And bearing in mind, he was the one that initiated this.
And he's the one that initiated. I know. And he would say that. He's like, oh, you know. So
interesting, isn't it?
It is interesting. Yeah. And even to this day, he's like, yeah, it was my choice. I'm the one that brought it up. I'm like, you know, but there were so many beautiful spaces that I found through doing this, having these other people as mirrors and doing some different things or just different conversations and all of those things. It was, to me, it's been a really cool experience for me. And for Dave, you know, he's come up against a little bit different of an experience, you know, where he would meet somebody and they're like, well, you know, we don't want to be with anybody else but you. So can you just divorce your wife? You know? And so, you know, he had to make choices from there. Well, no, I'm not going to divorce my wife. I'm going to stay with her. So, you know, I guess this isn't going to work. Now, we did end up getting a divorce.
Oh, why did you get a divorce then?
So we, you know, after just looking at everything that was going on, we kind of chose to just have different journeys. Like it felt like it was just time. And some of it honestly was, we were married for a total of 33 years, known
Wow.
each other for
Hmm.
35 years. When we first got married, we got married out of shame and guilt because we had sex before we were married. So we were really shamed and guilted by the church, by the family. And so
Okay.
if we wanted to have
Mm.
sex or be together, we had to get married.
Mm-hmm.
And, we just kind of really came to this realization of what was happening in society. Like, this is like a belief system that's out there. And it didn't negate our time we had together. We had beautiful times. We have 3 beautiful children, and um, would not have given it up for anything. But
Uh-huh.
there was just something in us that felt like, you know what? If we wouldn't have been shamed and guilted, maybe Dave would have had a few dates and been able to, go and be with other people and stuff before
Mm.
we got married. And maybe that wouldn't have ever been an issue. I don't know. But it was almost like this ethical thing within us that we just were like, you know what? Let's just break that.
Yes.
Let's break it. And we are such good friends. I mean, we talk on the phone almost every
Mhm.
day. We still support each other. We're still in business together.
Wow.
But
That's good.
there was something that just broke like a cycle of shame and guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's something, especially for Dave, that's where a lot of his wounding comes in
Mm-hmm.
from his childhood. And so actually by taking that step, it was like a step to say, okay, I don't have to experience this. I don't have to stay in this. I don't have to do this because of shame and guilt. And I know it sounds crazy and radical, but sometimes that's what you do.
Yes, healing yourself, and sometimes it's got to be, situations to break the mold, to break the culture, and what society expects. Being in a religion as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Uh, it's really, and this is kind of what I'm about.
Mhm.
It's like, what are your beliefs? What do you really, really want to believe? Let's get down to that. Not what your family says, not what the church says, not what the government says. What is it that you really want with your relationship with with this other person, or maybe it's these other people because you do choose to go into it like a polyamorous type situation.
Yes,
I just it's it's let's stop believing what everybody else believes, and you figure out what are your values, what do you feel comfortable with, and let's go from there.
and it's a way to explore. And this day and age, you've got to be comfortable with what you want and express it. And life is too short otherwise not to. Because here's the thing: you're sharing the things that everybody, or 99% of us, actually want to know, but are too scared to even go there or have that conversation. I mean, isn't that right, though?
Oh, it's so right. And that's why I want to talk about it. Let's just talk about it. It's
Mm,
not so scary. It really isn't. There's freedom beyond that.
definitely. Absolutely.
100%.
Mm,
How many people don't follow their passion?
yes.
Because they have to stay in their job that they were told that they had to work so they can get their pension so they can retire, and it has to go that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people just kind of die inside
Mm,
because
absolutely.
they don't see that there's other ways that we're all designed to follow our passion.
Definitely. So tell me more about your acronym CARE method of coaching, because that sounds really interesting. What's that about?
Yeah. So for me, moving through all of these spaces,
Mm-hmm.
C stands for communication.
Okay.
So that's the one thing that really getting into a space of effective communication. Other words, you go in those communication circles that that I was talking about. One where you can really deeply hear, reflect, honestly express your feelings and your needs. You know, a lot
Mm.
of times people don't understand that when they're like communicating with these moralistic judgments,
Yes.
and they're not really communicating what's at the root. And so when we
Mm-hmm.
can get down to that and really get down to the needs and the feelings, a lot of times we can just flip things right away, you know. So communication is definitely key in this type of situation. So the A is understanding your attachment style.
Okay.
So have you ever heard of the attachment style theory?
No, please do tell me.
Okay. So some great studies out on this.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people either have like a secure attachment where, you know, they kind of grew up in a very secure family. It was
Mm-hmm.
pretty normal, not a lot of stuff going on. And so they have a pretty secure attachment style. Then there's some that have a very anxious attachment style. Those are going to be people that tend to be very codependent. You know, if their spouse leaves, they're always suspicious. They need them close. You know, they want to control everything. And then
Mm-hmm.
you have like an avoidant type attachment style where you just, that's the person who just avoids. You know, they'll run away, they'll get away, they don't want to talk
Mm.
about it, they don't want to deal with it. And so when you can kind of find out what's at play with your attachment styles, because you might have even between the partners a little mix, you know, if one is anxious and one avoidant,
Mm-hmm.
then we can get some techniques in there to help you know, melt that together so that you can understand each other. Because when you understand your spouse's programming or you understand your programming,
Mm-hmm.
then, you know, it helps you to be able to function better in a relationship, whether it's with that
Absolutely.
partner or anybody, because
Mm-hmm.
you start recognizing it in your kids and, you know, people at work, everything. So it really helps. um, R is for really knowing yourself. And so that we get into all kinds of things. You know, I'll even recommend some personality tests sometimes, even
Mm-hmm.
doing some astrology, numerology, love languages, sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
depending on where we're going, erotic blueprints, so that you can understand, again, how are you programmed? What do you like with erotic blueprints? If you find out that, you know, your partner is a very sensual blueprint, that they like the candles and the smells and everything has to kind of be perfect in order for them to get in the mood.
Okay.
Um, and you have somebody who is more like sexual, where they just want to get to it.
Let's get on with it.
I'm ready to go. You know, then you can start speaking each other's language, and it changes things up in the bedroom. So, you know, understanding your love languages, you know, things like that. And then, you know, one of the most important things is really coming down to the pillars that you want to function on in your life and hopefully within the relationship too.
Yes.
So for me, like my pillars that I have for myself are honesty. So always telling the truth,
Mm-hmm.
being authentic and being vulnerable and being curious about things. And so what that does is it gives me my compass to make sure I'm staying true north. And so I know if I'm off in any of those areas, like if I'm not being myself or if I'm not telling the truth, you know, then I know I'm off and I need to
Yes.
get back to my true north and rectify that even within myself. And that can be the same within a relationship. So you can,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I encourage like couples to really come to some kind of pillars for their relationship so that they know when they're off kilter too. So, and then of course, E is emotions, is like, how the heck do we handle all these emotions that come up? You know, the jealousy and understanding emotions, being able to properly express your emotions, you know. And so and there's lots more that we cover, but those are the
Mm-hmm.
highlights.
Mm. That's excellent. Yeah, very interesting. And what resources do you recommend, daily tools, steps to anyone that wants a happier and healthier sexual relationship?
You know, I would say, you know, the erotic blueprints that I was talking about,
Mm-hmm.
there's, if you just Google erotic blueprints, there's actually a test out there. Uh, I think like $17 or something like that. It's pretty
Okay.
inexpensive. But understanding that erotic blueprint will change things up in the bedroom for sure, because you understand how you function, you know, so there's the energetic, there's the sexual, there's the sensual, there's the shapeshifter. So that's kind of somebody who can kind of morph into any of them, right? And the kinky. So there's 5 different ones that they've kind of named out there. But then understanding like kinky, everybody looks at kinky. Why kinky? You know, but kinky is really just anything that you wouldn't normally do. So like, let's say you're like super shy in the bedroom and you always have to have the lights turned off. Well, like turning the lights on might be kinky to you. So you know,
something as simple as that.
Right? Yeah, it doesn't have to be all this, you know, whips and chains stuff.
Yeah.
It could just be role playing, or it could be dancing, or it could be doing something like that. Another thing, at least that helped me, was the orgasmic meditation. What it does is it allows you as a woman to really get in touch with your body, like really drop into feeling what's happening in your body, understanding, but it's a space of you understanding yourself. And so when you can really start understanding those feelings within your body, it's going to make everything in the bedroom way better, because then you're really open to that, that feeling. So that was just something powerful for me as a woman, especially. So men will have to ask them, but some men are just like, I mean, they get into that meditative state too, and they get so much joy out of it because they're doing what they love to do. They're giving. And as a woman, we're receiving. And this can happen between same-sex couples too, you know, or some people will even do it themselves. Will do that practice themselves. To me, that was a very powerful one.
That's excellent. So where can the listeners find you online? What's your website?
Yeah. So my website is relationshipsevolving.com. I am also on Facebook. You can friend me as Gayle Lynn Marsh. Or I have my business page at Relationships Evolving with Gayle Lynn. And I do have a free Facebook group for women that we kind of have strategies and advice that we talk about within the group. I am on Instagram at relationships_evolving. And or Gayle at relationshipsevolving.com. You can email me. So all kinds of ways to get in touch with me. And I can book a discovery call and we can chat and see if we're a fit, if it's something that, you know, would work for your life and time to help you work through things.
Yeah. And your website will be in the show notes and the links. So thank you for sharing your courageous journey with us today. And by doing so, I'm sure you've helped so many others that dare not speak about relationships or intimate sex for sure. Gayle Lynn.
Thank you so much for having me.
What is your definition of courage?
You know, my definition of courage is just doing something you wouldn't normally do, right? Something that is going to take you one step beyond yourself to discover a little bit more about who you are.